Inside Story Uganda, real source of political updates
that are slated for next week. I'll start with you.
No, I was
Andrew.
Make your comment on the last part, and we'll come
Yes,
to the violence.
in a minute.
Just a brief, yeah. I first want to say that I disagree with the opposition's stance against iPod, because you see, the foundation of a democratic system is dialogue, is negotiation, and is compromise. The opposition in Uganda, especially Defiance and BCG and People Power, Stroke and Bobi Wine, believe, yes, they believe they should never talk to Museveni, because if you talk to Museveni, he will bribe you. But if I go to a meeting with Museveni, it is the decision to allow him to bribe me is mine. You go there, dialogue with him, don't get bribed. But exactly, you don't need to tell him off, because there's no reason to go and insult him. You can go there, make your case, and leave satisfied that you have made your case. Now, of course, Samuju would say, but look, the parties have gone there, have got nothing. But that is to say that a political change will come overnight. I'll give you an example. The United States, I think, declared her independence in 1776, saying all men are born equal. But black people were slaves until 1864. Women could not vote. Poor white men could not vote. Asiatics could not vote. Native Americans could not vote. You see, but over so many years, over 250 years, the Americans have tried to improve their democratic system to be in sync with the ideals, and they have not even reached there. As we speak today, so many black people are still in jail.
Yeah, but it's now dialogue by coercion.
No, but what I'm saying is, before NRM came to this act of blackmail to withdraw the money, I also feel like they should be held accountable. I think it's Semuju and Katana. You should be courageous enough to go and dialogue with NRM, because without that dialogue, we cannot build a proper democratic system. I know, of course, your fears that your base believes that if they see you talking to Museveni, they'll accuse you of having been bribed and lose confidence in you, in which case it will wreck your party. But it is incumbent upon you to exercise a certain degree of courage, because when Mandela initiated talks with the apartheid system, the ANC's own party actually banned him. And they said he has been bribed. When they removed him from Robben Island and took him to that house in Cape Town, they said all these things. But I think he was encouraged to continue the dialogue by the integrity of his character, because he knew, I would rather be accused falsely and I suffer that accusation, but try to do the right thing.
Yeah, but so, you see, Andrew, you speak like there has never been any attempt. Karega Samunjuba with the group went and met Museveni. The meeting broke down at the point they advised him to call other people, so there doesn't look like a deal between us and you. And he said, I will call the next meeting. He never called any.
But that's so understandable, yes. Samuju. That is why iPod, Museveni is the one who is not the one who deciding, therefore. iPod is a collection of political parties meeting outside of government structures as an NGO. And that's why you should go, because he does not have that level of control there. He will not determine which persons will attend. It is the party that determines its delegates. Anyway, let me come to the violence.
Violence, yes.
When you
How do we get to the root of it?
Yes, when you are introducing this discussion, I really felt, I said, now Kagwanjal has been in Uganda for 500 years. He was saying there is this new creeping violence. Creeping violence.
This season.
Yeah, this season, yes. Because it should not surprise you. Violence is at the very, very, very heart of NRM election cycles. I think, remember that NRM lost an election. After losing an election, picked up arms and went to fight against a legitimately, legally, internationally sanctioned elected government. There was Commonwealth observers here. They wrote a report. If you want, I can give you a copy. That UPC won the election. But Museveni said the election is rigged. He's going to fight against election rigging. So, violence was the means through which he captured power. I wonder why people think that once you have used violence to capture power, you will abstain from violence to keep it.
Yeah, but why is it rearing its ugly head now, ahead
Let
of...
me begin within NRM. The internal violence within NRM is evidence of how strong NRM actually is. That the actual political competition is inside NRM. So for you to be an NRM, to be nominated an NRM MP, gives you a ticket, you have higher chances, 9 or 8 out of 10 chances that you're going to win. Because the center of gravity, the actual competition is within NRM, that's why there is a lot of violence there. because NRM as a party lacks discipline and cannot enforce its will and rules and whatever on its members. And its own president, Museveni, undermines the party. How? If I ran against Dombo here and he defeated me in the NRM primary in our constituency, me, I go to run as an independent, Museveni will come to the constituency and try to campaign for both of us. He will not be loyal to the party candidate. He will say, both are our people. Okay, I want to be kind, rather fair to him. Maybe he sees that supporting a party candidate against an independent will divide the party, but that cannot be the case. A party must have discipline and you must stick to the candidate who has been nominated by the party. You cannot opportunistically throw him under the bus or put him at the same level as an independent candidate. In fact, the independent candidate should be penalized.
Do you imagine the country is now on the edge as we head to primaries? Yes.
Because so now that is, if the higher the violence within NRM, the greater the sense that NRM is so dominant that it's a own player. It's just evidence of the strength of NRM and because of its own internal indiscipline. On the other hand, when we come to the national election, I have always failed to understand the chain of causality, because I wonder whether it is because Museveni employs violence that boosts the numbers of the enthusiasm of the opposition to turn up and vote against him, or Museveni senses that there is an upsurge of opposition power, that he employs violence, which causes the other. Maybe it's a chicken and egg. But what we can see from elections, in every election where NRM has increased the level of violence, its Museveni's voting percentage has gone down, and the opposition's voting, hold a second, voting percentage has gone up. 2, voter turnout has increased wherever Museveni has exercised high levels of violence.
Honorable Dombo, when you look at the hotspots where violence has been registered, take for instance Isingiro, Sembabule, and Mobende, what is that one key thing that you think NRM hasn't resolved yet?
No, they are predominantly NRM. There is no contest outside of the NRM. So this is the actual national election.
Like my brother Mwenda has said.
My grandfather. Why are you downgrading?
My grandfather.
Thank you.
In most of those areas which you have mentioned, once somebody gets an NRM flag, it's a guaranteed position that you are going to be elected. If you look at the previous elections in Isingiro,
so you are celebrating
in Isingiro, and I think it is in Sembabule, that those are the only 2 districts where we have the NRM flag bearers. We don't have an NRM flag bearer because of the disagreements that they had at the time of elections. We couldn't even have a flag bearer, and you have seen that the recent discussions in State House, which resulted into one of the incumbent member of parliament opting out because of the previous agreements that they had. Recently, we had a meeting with the president, and we asked him that we wanted, when you get into the elections, to be very firm on people who will fail to comply within the regulations. And the president of the party. And the president was very specific. He said
he will start with him.
That is very good, but let us put the internal processes right. In a situation where you don't have a register, and somebody emerges a winner, and there is contestation, you may be refrained from really saying that this person legitimately won, because there was no basis for determining. So that's why this time he authorized us to use the money that we had received from the Electoral Commission to ensure that we must process the register. And right now, the NRM, we are printing the register to ensure that the elections that are going to take place on the 17th, we must use the register. We believe that where the internal processes are clear and sacrosanct, we believe when the president comes, he will support the flag bearer without reverting to what
who is fueling this violence? Take for instance, what we gather from Zimbabwe is that the army has a stake in this.
You know, where the issues of generals participating in the elections, because I was asking, we have the Inspector General of Police, who right now has been to Zimbabwe. The question was, how did the military get involved into the electoral processes? Because we know the military
itself is contesting.
No, the general is contesting, and he has bodyguards. But those ones are supposed to provide security. But by the time the military goes to shoot, I think the investigations should inform us of what exactly, because I hear the Inspector General, that's what he's doing. I wouldn't want to make a comment because I wasn't in Zimbabwe.
Is the party feeling overwhelmed by the kind of chaos?
No, these are instances that happen.
And it's likely to permeate into the primary.
These are instances that are happening, and it should inform us of what we must do before the elections. Because if this has happened during campaigns, I want to tell you that even harder things are likely to happen on the day or on the eve of the elections in the country.
So you anticipate bloody primaries?
The only challenge we have in Uganda is that the primaries in NRM is bigger than the EC elections in Uganda. I've had because we have 72,000 villages, and every village is a polling center. Even if you picked all the policemen in Uganda and you said they are going to man elections, that means say some areas will not have enough policemen to provide security. That means police right now must have an interim arrangement of borrowing forces from the other forces in order to support them.
Elections are manned by constables who are chosen from society. They are not
well, thank you very much. I want to get to you, Councillor Katana. How immune is NUP from this kind of chaos, given the upcoming processes where you have to make a decision from thousands who have expressed interest?
Well, the starting point is that parties have a consensus upon which they run their business. And it is important that parties stick to that consensus and play by the rules. And for us, that is the insurance that we will play by the rules, and we are very confident that we will be able to run through that process smoothly. Of course, there are people who will be disappointed, but even then you will not see people shooting each other. Because for us, we are a party that is not built on a foundation of violence. The NRA/NRM, its history is a history of criminality and violence. And that has been reinforced by impunity. If you see all those people that have been involved, nobody has been arrested. The only thing that has been done is we have suspended campaigns in Isinjiro. I don't know how that addresses criminality of a person whose car has been burnt or a person who has been shot. So,
would you arrest him without investigation?
Yes.
Yeah.
When someone's car has been burnt, the person has been shot, you arrest him. So that impunity is not manifestation of being a mass party like they present it, but it is manifestation of being a criminally minded organization. I want to borrow wisdom from two proverbs from Ankole. I will save you the lessons. When Mwenda's friend takes you to the basement, you will learn on your own. One is that a dog cannot forget the sitting posture of its mother. Most of these NRM actors have seen their leader beat, torture, humiliate, and embarrass his subordinates. Their mentality of political contestation is that you use the end justifies the means. It doesn't matter whether the process is fair, whether the process is guided by the rules, for as long as you are declared. The rest you can deal with the consequences. The other one is that when you steal while carrying a child on the back, you are teaching that child that this is the way things are done. So for a very long time, Dombo's boss has beaten his competitors, has used the state, abused the state power to deal with his competition. So when you go to these constituencies where you find there is a general or a minister contesting against a popular but disempowered person, he will also rely on the state structure to handle that competition. It is not true that this violence in the NRM primaries supersedes the violence that will be in the general elections. previous experience has suggested otherwise. And in fact, that particular place of Isingiro, in the previous elections, they chased away the NUP agents from the polling station. There was one stubborn person who refused, and they cut off his arm.
Council Benjamin Katana, the treasurer of the National Unity Platform. Good to have you and a very good evening.
Good evening to you, Simon, and the viewers of the
We're also joined by the Director of Communications at the NRM Secretariat, Honorable Emmanuel Dombo Lumala. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, and good evening, our viewers and my fellow panelists. It's a pleasure to be here once again.
Well, the grandpa of the land, Andrew Mwenda, very senior journalist, Managing Director of the Independent Publications, and in one way or the other,
Deputy King of Toro.
one man who has been spinning for Balalo. Good to have you.
Spokesperson of
My pleasure to be with you.
Good to have you. Then our frontliner, Honorable Semuju Ibrahim Nganda, the new Secretary General of the People's Front for Freedom. Good to have you.
Thank you, Simon.
Congratulations, you got 3 slots, and it's been interpreted as greed.
That's how you have been psyched by Museveni.
Secretary General,
That,
Head of Mobilization and Spokesperson. You have so much on your
You
platter.
see, in Kenya, young people who are protesting, one of the issues is that Ruto refused to disband his army of presidential advisors, that for every function, there is a presidential advisor. You see, in Uganda, every function has become one office. You need to read the constitution of my party. There is nothing like a mobilization and a spokesperson. These are functions that you can assign to any person and any office.
Or it's a sign of limitation that you actually don't have enough manpower to run the party.
The reason you have a cabinet of 82 ministers is that everything has become a department and a ministry and a directorate. Karamoja affair, Iteso affair. PFF, we think first we need to have a lean government, and you start by the way you structure your party. We don't want to turn each function into an office. If the others choose to do so, it is their business. It is not in our constitution. Where in FDC, those were offices. For us, we think they are functions to perform.
Well, that's not the gist of our discussion tonight. Honorable Katana, I'll start with you, Council. Well, NUP has embarked on a fundraising campaign that's been greeted with mixed reactions. How is it going so far?
Well, I think the starting point is that I have not seen any mixed reactions, unless that is within a figment of your imagination. But judging from public discourse, I have not seen mixed reactions. But the fundraiser, which is largely aimed at financing the campaign, and as has been our tradition, because even in towards the 2021 general elections, we called upon members of the public, and the campaign was financed by members of the public. And in the same spirit, we embarked on a fundraising effort aimed at raising money to finance the campaign that we are going into. And while there will be an update to the public tomorrow about the progress made so far and the steps to be taken going forward, I can confidently say that the fundraising is going on well, and I'm confident that it will substantially meet the targets.
What's your target?
Well, like I mentioned, I wouldn't want to preempt the official communication, which will be done tomorrow. But we are looking between 9 billion and 10 billion as the estimated budget that we need to meet.
And to what end would this bring vigor to the campaign?
Well, if we are able to raise that money will be able to support the presidential campaign, but also support some parliamentary candidates who are competent and able, but unable to meet the financial requirements, for example, for nominations and things of that nature. So those are the dynamics involved.
Andrew, what do you read between the lines on NUP's fundraising campaign and the steam that is gathered from day one?
First of all, I should give you a background to political party and political campaigns funding in Uganda. I have always had a problem with the old FDC, now PFF, and NRM, because they are very opportunistic political parties. The way they are organized is that the leaders, in this case Museveni and Besigye, would go to some source and raise money, and that money is the foundation on which the party is run. But you see, then that means that the leadership cannot be accountable to the members of the party because it owes them nothing. In fact, the members of the party depend on the leadership for resources to go and campaign. The first time I went to FDC headquarters, I went to pick forms there to run against Bobi Wine. So Bobi Wine
NUP, you went to NUP.
Rather NUP. I went to NUP.
So you're obsessed with FDC even when
Yes,
you went
yes.
somewhere else.
Even when I'm sleeping, even when I'm sleeping, I dream FDC. So that's how much I love the party. So the first time I went to NUP headquarters to pick forms to run against Bobi Wine, let me just put a caveat that Bobi Wine and Senyonyi, is he called Senyonyi? Joel Senyonyi, something like that. They went and lied that they picked wrong forms, they blocked me from run, they cheated me out anyway. Not knowing that in the national election, Museveni would also cheat them out. Now they complained that Museveni had cheated them, but they did not remember that they had cheated somebody else in this. But I remind the people's president of NUP.
Serious issues, don't bring here gossip.
I'm serious. So I remind the people's president of NUP. But anyhow, the point I was going to make is that what impressed me when I went to NUP is I found actually people were lining up and paying membership and subscription fees, I think 1,000 shillings, 2,000, 5,000, but people were paying for the party. I believe that if ever Uganda is to have a party where members are investors in the party, is when that party goes to ordinary members. There is not a single Ugandan I know who cannot raise 10,000 shillings. And if you are able to get, let me say, 10 million Ugandans to contribute to your party, then you have 100 billion. And Museveni will never defeat you. So Ugandans out there need to learn that the liberation of Uganda, the improvement of the governance of Uganda, whatever, is not a function of Besigye or Museveni or Bobi Wine.
So NUP has an edge over the president.
On that basis, that is 5 years ago, I felt that their members were investors in the party because they were voluntarily paying to be members. Now, if they go on a fundraising drive that is open like this one, of course NRM will put a lot of roadblocks in their way. But if they go out there to try to get Ugandans and avoid businessmen, they will give you money in the middle of the katana. Businessmen do not want to be seen to support you, because if you lose, then they will suffer severe consequences. Those ones, you may need to approach them at night. They will have to give you cash, and you have to ensure that you keep their confidentiality. Others will not fund you. But ordinary Ugandans will fund you, and this is why you're going to find a problem. The vast majority of Ugandans have interests. Maybe they want better wages, they want better conditions of work, maybe they want better agricultural extension facilities. Depending on their occupation or profession or activity they're involved in, there are things they need which you as a party need to represent. Let me tell you, the idea that the only platform NUP can have, which is what we have been having for a very long time, is Museveni Agende, is not very convincing. It may appeal to about 50% of Ugandans who are angry with Museveni, and all they want is to see him go.
Okay, they are having a target of 9 billion. You find that tenable?
9 billion?
Yes.
So that's a very, very small target. I wish you could have had a target of 50 billion. Because you see, I'm happy they are starting from the right position. I hope it drives them to the logical action. That logical action is to develop a program to represent the genuine interests of different occupational, occupational groups of Ugandans? If they are students, what do you offer students? And how do students get to feel like you're a legitimate and genuine representative of their aspirations? If we talk of farmers, and farmers are not a unified voice. Farmers, are those of coffee or cotton or tea, have different interests and aspirations. Farmers of matoke and maize and beans and rice, each one of them have the interest. How does a party root itself in the existential realities of these occupational groups? If they are nurses, if they are doctors, if they are teachers, you get it. How do you make them, those constituent groups, feel you represent their interests genuinely and legitimately? I'm telling you, if any political party in Uganda did it, people would fund it. And if people funded it, it would be very difficult to steal their votes.
Okay, does the enthusiasm that was witnessed on day one speak to the kind of heat that we're going to have for 2026?
It is too early to judge, Kagwanjala. It's very early to judge. You know why? Because remember that at any one time, there is a small segment of the population, and these ones I call the fanatical extremists, whose men, they're so angry with this government, and genuinely so, rather legitimately so, that they want Museveni to go. So on the first day, those may mislead you to think that you have the vast majority of Ugandans behind you. But it is also possible that as days go by, once you exceed that circle, maybe it is 8, 10, 15% of the population, then you dry out. So for them to be able to sustain this momentum, they will need to build a program and an agenda that really makes sense to so many people. Another thing they will need to abandon. You see, there is the assumption, I feel, and this man, when he speaks, don't trust him. If you sit with if you sit with my grandson here, Semuju, he has very good insight into the weaknesses of the opposition, but he knows that if he speak on this TV against them, they will lynch him. But me, I will speak on his behalf.
But you're also opposition, you're a spokesperson of an opposition group.
Yes, I am. I have told you I'm the genuine people's president of NUP. So, but what I can say is that you see in another bad situation. Two things about them. One, they're very intolerant of dissent. Even when a person criticizes them constructively, any form of criticism, there is zero tolerance of it.
We're talking about fundraising. So
but this is what I'm saying. But if you're going to fundraise, there are many people they need to reach out to who may not agree with them now, but whom they need to convince. For them, they want to preach to the converted, those people who already hate Museveni, but there are many people who are fence-sitting. There are many people who are lukewarm about Museveni. There's so much convincing they need to do. They need to reach out. There are even critics whom they should try to change, you see. So if you're going to fundraise and you focus yourself on the tiny group of your radical extremists who see social enemies frustrating them everywhere, you will not succeed. Of course, NRM has a much grander strategy. NRM will tolerate a lot of criticism, will accommodate many people. Its problem is it's opportunistic. The party doesn't believe that Ugandans can invest in the process of their own change. And this is surprising for me because Museveni went to Luweero. He ate those people's cows. He ate their food. Ordinary people funded NRM and NRA.
Is Gaddafi an ordinary person?
But those were secondary supporters. I should tell you the foundation of NRM support was the moral and material support provided by people in areas of its operations. If Gaddafi sent guns, they constituted maybe 1% of the total value of resources needed. Now, what NRM does today, once it came into government, it was corrupted by IMF, World Bank, and international donors because to reconstruct Uganda, rather than mobilizing Ugandans to raise money for the reconstruction of the country, they went and started getting money from abroad. Then Museveni also learned that for him to run the party, he goes to his friends or the state, raises money, and then the money from above funds the party below.
Okay, Andrew, before I shift to Honorable Dombo, what stands out now is that NUP now identifies more as a people party, while you've had an argument for a while that NUP is getting money from unfriendly forces. It's now all out.
Me? I've never made an argument, but I have seen messages say they got money from Britain and the United States and Rwanda, something like that, in those audios of Besige. What I can say is that getting money from abroad is okay, I don't mind, especially if there are Pan-African groups in Kenya, in Ghana, and elsewhere who may want to fund a NUP. I'm reluctant to support them raising money from the Europeans and others because they have agendas which are very different from our agendas as Africans. But what is critical for them is to raise money from Ugandans. And Katana, if you guys emphasize, make Ugandans the centerpiece of your fundraising effort, and look at this party, that this party will be a party of Ugandans, by Ugandans, for Ugandans, then you'll have a chance to change this country.
Honorable Dombo, what do you read into NUP's fundraising drive?
For everything that is done in Uganda, it provides a learning lesson for many people. And for us, we have been watching, and one of the things we observed, which President Museveni has repeatedly been telling the people of Uganda, that we need to build a middle class that is able to raise money. Over the years, when this matter came up in the national resistance movement as a mass, people have been making propositions, whether we must sell cards, whether there must be membership, whether, and President Museveni has been differentiating the various categories of parties, and he says this is a mass party. Time will come when people will be able to afford. For now, we may not go through that direction. We may introduce activities within the party through which members of the party can be able to contribute. But to go ahead and say we are paying membership, that one hasn't happened. NRM has fundraised before, because there have been a number of fundraisings for the construction of the headquarters.
And where is the money?
And money is on the bank account.
For how many years?
The money is on the
12 years later.
Yes, money is there accumulating and is gaining interest. And recently, the national chairman informed members of the Central Executive Committee that they are in final stages of doing the architectural plans and approvals. Very soon, they will be launching the construction. So, fundraising is not new, because NRM, through the members of the party, the leaders who are there, they have been fundraising and raising money for the party. Through the members who are paid a salary, through the elective offices, a decision was taken. Members of parliament, local government leaders are making, the president himself is making a contribution.
Yeah, but don't you find it remarkable that members of the opposition, cash-strapped as they are, reach out to each other and raise money? You saw the activity on day one.
I saw the enthusiasm, and it is admirable, because we cannot really disparage it. But was on a positive side. It was able for us to see young people with boxes. When they opened the boxes, they had savings. That means when people work hard under the national resistance movement government, people save money and raise money. To us, it has both sides of the story, because people,
even the ones who gave food in Ruwero had been building that wealth under other governments.
That's what I'm telling you, that they gave food. They didn't have money. Right now, they can give money instead of the food.
They have no food.
Because this is what I'm telling you, that right now, the activities and the efforts of government for all the people of Uganda, because I'm very sure that if NRM tomorrow also called for fundraising and the president was very serious to say, people, let us do this, people will come in and raise money.
Do you believe that NUP's financial muscle is something that would scare off the NRM in the forthcoming election?
Raising 10 billion through fundraising. This money we raised it more than that through nomination fees. When you look at the positions of nomination for the members of parliament, because we published the figures which the people are paying. We published the numbers of the people who have been nominated for local government up to LC1. We are more than, far more than that. So the ability, but also NRM is a bigger party. We shall need more money, because the positions for which we are supposed to fund, we can be able to fund positions throughout the whole country, which unfortunately they could be targeting only selected areas where they can fund. But I want to tell you that through our means, we are able to raise money which will help NRM to support the activities of the electoral activity.
Although I should tell you, Emmanuel, the problem NRM has is that for every 100 shillings NRM spends, NUP or PFF, they will need maybe 2 shillings, 2% or 3%. Let me say maximum 5% to equal them, because NRM is inefficient, corrupt, incompetent. So the opposition, if they had 10 billion, NRM would need 200 billion.
Well, Honorable Semuju, how remarkable is the effort by NUP to fundraise, and are they setting the bar for other opposition groups on how to run their party activities and campaigns?
You see, there is funding and raising of money from the population as a symbolism. In 2016, people donated items. On nomination day, people gave Dr. Besigye a sofa from Chireka. When he came back for campaign, people gave him goats. But real financing of campaign requires a lot more money. A lot more money at a parliamentary level, at a presidential level. To finance a fair, good presidential campaign, you will need in the FD, I think the highest amount we ever spent was about 3 or even less. But there are areas where I went with Besigye in Uganda and I didn't find our posters. Posters were being displayed in some towns. One time we drove from Riantonde through rural areas to Rakai to Chotera. I didn't see any posters there. So I realized that we required much more money than what we were able. So the contribution by the population is only in a form of symbolism. In the constituency where I'm an MP, I go to churches and mosques. Majority of those who are contributing 2,000, 1,000. I was in Ntinda here, and they told me at that church, before you reach Ntinda town, every weekend they raise 70 million in a church.
How much?
70 million. You go to a mosque in Chira, they are raising 20,000. If you look at the Bank of Uganda financial capability survey done recently, first of all, in Uganda we have 2.7 million people who operate bank accounts. The rest don't, of the population of 45 million. But Bank of Uganda says in that survey that people who earn $1 million and above in Uganda are 1.something%. More than 40% of the population with bank accounts and earn money are earning 150 and below. So while Mwenda theoretically will tell you that you can build a party on 1,000 shillings, it will be a form of symbolism that they want to express love, and but they can't fund a party, they can't fund a campaign. If you look at the recent report of the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, for example, you have 10.7 million youth aged 18 to 30. 5.2 million are not in school, are not in employment. And these are the people who want a change, but they have nothing. They will escort you. You can say we go to Kabari and they can walk. That's all they can offer. Because if you are competing with the NRM of the Kategayas that had started dance to raise money to fund itself, then the 1 billion will be enough. Now a whole financial year, sometimes even 2 financial years, if you have a budget of and you remove debts and so on, I think Museveni now uses more than 10 trillion in a campaign. So you go to campaign for, against an NRM candidate. I'll give you an example. In Kabura, there was a guy who wanted to be an MP in Kabura. So he's escorted to church by 2 Museveni brothers to boost his campaign. At that church ceremony, they contributed 500 million. I don't think Nup raised the 400 million the day all of them when they are collected at Kabule. And he wanted to run a presidential and parliamentary. But just 2 fellows supporting a candidate in Kabura, they were able to contribute, because he was leading fundraising, 500. I have an MP of PFF from Kabari municipality. One time he went for fundraising. There is a church there. The NRM ministers each contributed 80 million. He had walked in with one. He told me I had now to borrow from people I represent. At least I gave 5 because I was looking embarrassed. And politics in Uganda has become highly commercialized. It doesn't matter whether you're opposition or not. The basic things, in fact, what the Chinese campaign did in the last election, I don't know whether we'll be able to have that repeated, was to create a followership that was voting for a candidate whether he existed or not. Because in where I am, there is a councillor in Charwajara who nominated and went to Italy. He went for Ocheyo, but he was voted. I had another one who was supposed to be representing in Naria, but on campaign day, the ballot paper in Weyogerere and Naria had been interchanged. So the candidate of Naria was appearing on ballots in Weyogerere and vice versa. They voted both of them. So we told them, you don't have to complain because both of you have gone through. So you just go to where you belong. You can only survive if you have created that sort of followership. But in the rest of the positions, because you see, in these campaigns, in the last 2021 local government elections, on the closure of nomination, NRM had 350 LC 3 chairpersons going through unopposed. Because even before you raise the money, you are unable to raise the candidates themselves, because you require, in the last election, the total elective positions in Uganda were at 2.7 million. So each party required 2.7 million candidates. If you look at the strategic document of the Electoral Commission, their forecast was 3.3 million candidates. In FDC, the time I was there, you have people at a parliamentary level who can't pay 3 million shilling for nomination. So you pay for them and they tell you, okay, you have paid for me 3 million. What do I do next? You have to print. We bought a printer which was taken by police. They came and raided and carried away the printer which was meant to print posters. So while it is a good thing to get the population
Do you
involved,
want to look at 9 billion as a drop in the ocean?
If you are lucky and you create a fanatic followership, because in all elections, on polling day, even the polling agents, you have to pay them some money, you have to feed them. One time we were in the way of a by-election, and that you're dealing with your own supporters. After the declaration of results, they had walked away with the declaration forms that we haven't paid them, yet they are our supporters. And then we had to chase them with the borders. Please. They are known that this guy, because that the candidate who was there was a DP candidate. And then they say the chairman for this village of DP, he has no phone, but he has gone with our declaration form, he has not been paid 20,000. So the circumstances in Uganda, I don't know.
You're saying the population of Uganda has gotten commercially prostituted,
that they, first of all, they see us who seek for office and going to parliament as people are going there primarily to benefit ourselves. Yeah. So they have very little sympathy. Why should they raise money for somebody to go? Today when Museveni was in Kosokoso in my constituency,
do you anticipate the process to go as smooth as it started?
The process of fundraising?
Fundraising, yes.
Well, I can tell you that when you are competing with Honorable Dombo's NRM, there's nothing that you can plan and execute smoothly. Just yesterday, because among the channels of fundraising, we have been using this what they call Momo Pay, Airtel, this one of Airtel. And one was deactivated when we started the process. Probably even others will be deactivated, particularly one which was registered under the party. So the enthusiasm, certainly, we have got to come up with a number of ways through which you can keep it going. But there are disruptions, and there will be disruptions, and of course the enthusiasm keeps going down, and it's our responsibility to make sure that we find creative and innovative ways of interesting people to participate in this process. But most importantly, the discussion about the 9 billion being a drop in the ocean, it's very true. For example, after the 2021 general elections, the report by ACFIN indicated that the NRM candidate, Museveni, had spent over 900 billion in the campaign, compared to NUP's candidate who had spent about 3 billion. You can see there is a whole world of difference between the two. But the model of politics of NUP and the like-minded organizations is different from the model of NRM. And I think Andrew has quite pointed out why NRM spends a lot of money. But one of the things is that there is most of the people that mobilize for NUP are people who are not motivated by the desire to earn some money from the campaign. And so even with the minimal resources, we are able to achieve more than what they may achieve with a lot of money.
Does this suggest that you're not picking any money from foreign sources? Your campaign is going to be locally funded?
Well, if we get, because you see we have values. If we get Simon Njara here, who is a Ugandan or a Kenyan or an American, who is not saying this is the condition, but he has appreciated the principles for which we stand and want to support us, we wouldn't say no. But at the moment, we do not have any foreign funding. Not now, not yesterday. So even in 2021, the funds that we relied on to run the campaign were generated from Ugandans, both here and in the diaspora. And it's true that even if you raised 15 billion, it would still be little. But we are mindful of the realities that we are dealing with. One of our colleagues here mentioned that, for example, the business people in Uganda, on account of the repercussions of associating with the opposition, are never going to come up with donations to an opposition party. So we are going to be receiving 1 million, 2 million from a few citizens who do not necessarily have big business interests protected by associating with you. Of course, we have people who even fear to come to our headquarters because they think by associating with us it would attract repercussions and that may affect their business interests, their job interests. I don't think there's any civil servant who would be bold enough to donate even 10,000 openly. And of course there are also fears. Every time in town people keep asking that, I hope that money, every day you find a way of keeping it away from the headquarters, because of what has been the practice, that the army and police raid our offices, take whatever they land on, they never return it, never press charges against anybody. They say we are following up on information, they steal money, steal paraphernalia of the party. So with all that in mind, the process cannot be smooth. But nevertheless, we are determined to make the best out of it.
Well, Andrew, do you get a sense that now that NUP is reaching out to its members up to the grassroots, it's going to be stronger than they were in 2021? And coupled with that, NUP has for the past 4 years been getting money from under the iPod arrangement. But with the new law now in place, Honorable Mao has put an stop on further funding until he issues a statutory instrument. Do you think this money will fill the void?
First of all, I do not know why government funds political parties. It should not. But the point you asked, I think that NUP is going to be weaker this time than before. For the following reasons, it has lost its novelty effect. What Semuju was saying, people were willing to do so much for NUP because it was a new idea with a new leadership which was young. But over the last 4 years, I don't see anything that NUP has done that would make me believe that those who are enthusiastic about it would retain similar levels of enthusiasm. That is one. The second is, I don't think, when I listen to Katana and Semuju, I don't think, you see, what they're saying is true. But truth is not, but it's only one aspect of the life of Ugandans. I also believe, well, I think that many Ugandans are very opportunistic. They look at elections on Nzemfunirawa, the kind of a broader national project is missing. I think it's possible to have an organization and a leadership that can catalyze the patriotic fervor of people. You know, I'll give you an example of this young man, Zohoran Mamdani, the son of a kid from Uganda here. He has been running for mayor. All the big money in New York is the richest city in the world, the financial capital of the world, went behind his main opponent, the governor of New York State, a man called Como. They come from a very wealthy family. They have been dominant in politics and the media. His brother Chris used to be one of the top guys at CNN, Chris Como. That man Como outspent Zohran Mamdani by a factor of 1 to 30 for every dollar that Zohran Mamdani spent. The Como group spent 30. How did that kid from the Bronx defeat the entire financial and billionaire establishment of New York City? He went and collected voters, people who have not been voting because they're frustrated with the system. In the last election, only 60%, 58% of Ugandans showed up to vote. So you had 42% out there.
Wasn't it less?
The people who voted in the last election, 58, 57%. So there's 42% of registered voters who did not show up. We need, if there was to be a very serious political leadership to challenge NRM effectively, it is to get those people who are apathetic, those people who are indifferent, those people who are disinterested, those people who are frustrated and have opted out of the political process, to bring them back in and to bring them into the voting community. You will need to have something much more inspirational to appeal to them. And let me come to my grandson Semuju. Semuju, let me tell you, please do not follow Bank of Uganda numbers on how people, and because they look, most Ugandans do not earn money through the formal process of a bank account. The vast majority of Ugandans are in what we call the informal sector. And even those who are in the formal sector, they earn maybe 70 to 80% of their monthly income outside of their formal wage. So even those in the government who earn that little money, maybe they have their bribes and sidekicks and kickbacks. So it is not true that an average Ugandan, there is no Ugandan who cannot raise 10,000 in a year, 10,000 shillings for a cause they believe in. If you want to know how Ugandans have money, you need to go to these churches. And you go to wedding meetings, you go to funerals. How are they funded in this country? There's so many. People's fees get paid, people's funerals get paid for, weddings are paid for. You go to the poorest parts of Uganda, you find people have built churches out of permanent materials because those things represent people's spiritual.
Is this fundraising anything that should upset the NRM or awaken them?
But I think that, as you can clearly see, my grandson here, Emmanuel Dombo, he's relaxed because he knows that this fundraising is not going far. But if NUP actively went on the grassroots with a message that is able to catalyze the feelings, aspirations of the people, of the different social groups of the community called Uganda, my friend, you would see NRM beginning panic. And once a movement like that begins, it's very difficult to stop. Let me give you an example. Somebody was making this point. My brother-in-law has a sister was married in Mitiana there, and she has a daughter. And I think this daughter is the MP for Wakiso District Women Parliamentary Seat. What is the lady's name? She didn't have money for the campaigns, that lady. You know, Wakiso District is the largest district in Uganda. It has 4 municipalities in it. Am I correct?
3.4 million people.
3.4 million people, and has 4 municipalities and all this. She didn't have money.
No.
So what's her name? The woman MP for Naluima. So Naluima is my in-law. So she didn't have money. After 1 week or 2 weeks of the campaign, she stayed home because she could not, she didn't have money for fuel and all this. She swept the next, I think she got 8% of the vote. She didn't, because people were willing enough to reject Museveni. He could not rig, she did not, agents volunteered, they were there, they did not run away, everything was done, and she won.
That was the novelty effect.
That was the novelty effect. Now, of course, it could have been because of a sense of Buganda. People are voting for a Buganda candidate, whatever it is, identity, in which case that's a very powerful thing. The opposition need to find what are those buttons in Uganda that you touch that make people do things voluntarily without money, and they do them with passion and enthusiasm.
Thank you. As we take a break, Honorable Dombo, do you believe that NUP is now vindicated on these allegations that they have been fetching money from abroad? Now they have demonstrated that theirs is a local initiative.
Well, it proves two things. First one, that NUP has been getting money from government, but without acknowledging that they get this money.
Acknowledging to who?
But
I
now
think they are accounting to EC.
they account to EC, but they never publicly come up to acknowledge. Many times, members from the National Unity Platform would evade that question whenever they were in the media and were asked whether they get any money from government.
I have answered that question on a show with him several times.
Absolutely,
Even here.
you have done it, but many people have been denying it, including the principal.
He is the party treasurer.
Yes, he's the treasurer, and you know he's civil. But there are many people who are in National Unity Platform who have been evading answering that question. But now, this shows you that the decision taken by the members of parliament and government benefits the parties and was the right thing to do. That was progressive. The second one, like my brother here, Andrew Mwenda, has said, progressively when you go to the population, the reasons why the people vote, why do they vote? The question is, if you are addressing the challenges that they face. I looked through the recent by-elections in Kawempe. The people would be asked, even when their candidates would say they are going to fight President Museveni, whenever they were asked what were the problems, then they would answer the real problems of the population. Garbage collection, mosquitoes and bed bugs, poverty, and unemployment. Those are the issues. Once, for us as a party, which is in government, can provide the solutions to some of the challenges that members are facing, the population will understand and will not be swayed away because of this. But also, secondly, National Unity Platform, when they came, they were new. They could promise heaven on earth, but over the 5 years, they have delivered hell.
Okay, here they are now. They are looking for 9 billion shillings to wrestle you out of power.
I have told you that money really is insignificant. If tomorrow, in this Honorable Karuhanga lost an election in Western Uganda, and the